Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. We have an update on Ethan Hooker's injury and a potential tentative return to action after he underwent surgery following the dislocation to his shoulder that happened during the game against the Ospreys when Luke Morgan died on the back of Ethan Hooker. It was a pretty big incident, and it looks like we have got confirmation that he will not be available for the Barbarians fixture. He will not be available for the opening rounds of the Nations Championship. It looks like he's going to be sidelined for about 10 weeks, which does mean, however, that he might be available for the Greatest Rivalry Tour. It'll be very touch and go whether he's available and fit to face New Zealand in the colours of the Sharks. However, it looks like it is a bit more positive to potentially be able to face New Zealand within the green and gold. Before we get into it, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. So, there's an update yesterday in a report, and they said that Ethan Hooker is basically hoping to be available for the opening test of the Greatest Rivalry Series against the All Blacks. He is currently on the sidelines after suffering a dislocated shoulder, as mentioned. He is out of the rest of the URC season and will definitely not make the July test nor the one fixture against the Barbarians, which is even before then. But reports stating that a tentative timeline has been set and that after the surgery, they're looking at about 10 weeks. Now, if we look at 10 weeks basically from today, it takes you basically into the end of July. You've got about 2 more weeks left of May, and you've then got a full June and a full July. You basically should return to fitness kind of that last week of July, ideally, with regards to a return date. However, 10 weeks, a return of 10 weeks does not leave a lot of room for error. And now, realistically, when they give you sort of 10 weeks return, they are supposed to be saying that that is your return date. That is not, 10 weeks and then you can start training type of thing. Hopefully, even 10 weeks, you're basically kind of back to almost hopefully being available and being able to take contact, for example. Because obviously, an injury like this is not just a case of once you're back, you're back. You need to be able to take contact. You need to go through those processes. You need to get game time. And that's the big problem as well. We're not going to probably have Curry Cup matches, the likes of that at this time. So it's going to be difficult for him to get game time, to find out sort of the form he's in. And we could very well see him being reintroduced back into the mix against the All Blacks if he is going to be involved at all. And I think ideally, we'd really like to see him against the All Blacks. I think that Rusty Rasmussen's coaching staff really do rate him on the wing, potentially outside centre, where they kind of have mentioned they sort of see him in a long-term future. But I think at the moment we're looking at a bit of a sketchy timeline because this does not allow for any additional time. If there's any sort of setbacks, if the rehab and the shoulder, for example, doesn't respond the way that they hope it will respond, and there's any sort of delay, it'll rule them out effectively for the Greatest Rivalry Tour, which is pretty crushing given the fact that, we're only going to have this tour every 8 years. So the next time he'll be able to play in the Greatest Rivalry Tour in South Africa, obviously we'll be going to New Zealand in a few years' time, will be in his 30s. Now, thankfully, he is 23 years old. So, but I think, he was so primed to be playing after coming through and being, one of our breakthrough players to then playing a role in the Bok team for the Greatest Rivalry Series, trying to go and get that victory. And I think it'll be a massive achievement, regardless of whether we think New Zealand's at their best or close to their best at the moment. And he would have been a big part of it. Now, the big thing is that nothing ever happened, really, to be honest. And there's more fallout that's come. Jay Peterson has had his words. They asked the URC to check. Nigel Owens came out and said that he agreed that it wasn't a red card, but however, it should have probably been a penalty and maybe have a TMO look. But nothing was really done, to be honest. And I still find it frustrating that we haven't really had any sort of clarity as to why and any sort of explanation. And not that they have to explain every single time somebody isn't cited, apart from we don't believe it met the citing threshold, but there will always be incidents and occurrences that are slightly more significant, inverted commas, that get a much bigger traction. And I do feel you don't want to basically sort of just ride the wave as soon as fans get up and down, you have to answer them. But an incident like this, where there is grey area within the laws and where you've got an ex-referee like Nigel Owens saying that maybe there should have been a penalty, I think a better explanation was warranted from the URC and the disciplinary panel. We unfortunately did not get that. And it's frustrating at the end of the day. So let's wait and see. I think that if he can get basically back to full fitness by the end of July, then maybe they could look at potentially running him against the All Blacks for the Sharks. That would be an ideal situation. It doesn't help that they're going to the Sharks very early in the tour. But that will probably be the game that you'll be looking, going, well, if I can get back and I can get onto the field in that game, get 40 minutes in, for example, maybe even get a start, show that I'm up to my full fitness, show that, form-wise, I can contribute, then we might see him potentially get drafted into that box squad, depending on, obviously, injuries. I don't think he'll be named in the official box squad, but with an injury sort of kick in, then he potentially becomes an option and could get an opportunity to then hopefully make a late appearance. And now there are also 4 tests. It's going to be quite a long tour and quite grueling for the All Blacks, as well as the Springboks to a certain degree, who a lot of them are going to be within their franchises, then going back into Bok camp. You've then got 3 tests in South Africa, then you're going to go overseas to the USA, play another test, then you effectively have a couple of weeks off. You play against Australia, then you go off to your different clubs. For example, during October, you might play 1 or 2 games, and then it's the Nations Championship towards the end of the year, which will feature 3 matches as well as in that finals weekend, and be very interested to sort of see where we end up. Hopefully playing the feature match on, I think it will be the Sunday evening at Twickenham, which will be the number 1 Southern Hemisphere side versus the number 2 versus the number 1 Northern Hemisphere side in that match. What are your thoughts? Do you think the Great Rivalry Tour will come too soon, or do you think he'll be able to get himself in top form, top condition, and be able to feature against the All Blacks? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.